Hi guys, Maikeru here. This is my Kalphite King solo guide. In this guide I talk about the requirements, the setup and how to deal with green. So let's get right into it. The requirements I would recommend for Kalphite King are as follows. A Desert Amulet 3 for improved Kerist effect, which is the hard task in the desert. What the Desert Amulet 3 does is it increases the hit chance bonus to 25% with the Keris, and there's a 5% chance of triple damage while using it. This means you're going to hit a lot of 10 and 12Ks as you're just fighting the boss, even with basics. It's insane. Also means that you never ever splash. It's even better than a main hand Khopesh if you use a Desert Amulet and the Keris. I would also recommend a Kalphite Slayer task and a Slayer helmet. That way you get even more damage and accuracy. Bladed Dive is required to escape the green on the melee phase. This way it gives you time to Devotion or Resonance. A lot of people say use Trim Masterwork, but it's just not consistent enough at soaking the green in my opinion. You're better off with Bladed Dive. I'll explain more about that in this video obviously. High tier PVM gear for melee and range is highly recommended. You want tier 80 plus armors and tier 90 plus weapons and you'll be fine. You want melee and range because you switch to range whenever he goes into magic phase. Then you use melee for when it's in the melee phase and the range phase. Now we know the requirements, let's get into the setup. Now when it comes to a setup, mine is on screen and you want something like this. When it comes to the worn inventory, I have my Slayer helm because Kalphite Slayer task. My Desert Amulet 4 and my Keris for the effect. I have hybrid gloves, hybrid boots, trim masterwork, vamp scrimshaw, ring of death, offhand Khopesh, com cape and quiver. Just take your best in slot things for every single one of these slots. It would work with slightly worse gear. This is just what I use. I take a blood nil because you're mostly melee in, that's why I take a vamp scrimshaw as well. Then I take a supreme overload, a super prayer nil, replenishment potion, couple of prayer pots, couple of brews, lots of food, and a range switch. For the range switch, because I've got hybrid gloves and boots, I just take a weapon, top, legs, and amulet. The rest is fine to have as range. I also take weapon poison, a Luck of the Dwarves switch, a vigor switch, an enhanced Excalibur, and obviously a shield swap, which is my defender. At the start of the fight, Kalphite King will spawn as a random phase. He'll pop up from the middle and he'll be a certain colour. Green means it's range phase, which means you pray range and you melee it. When it's yellow, it means it's melee phase and you pray melee and melee it. When it's blue, it's mage phase. You pray protect mage and you range this phase. Because your melee accuracy here isn't anywhere near as good as the other phases. Range does much better here. The rotation for KK is simple. It's 2 attacks, ability, 2 attacks, ability, and it keeps rotating that way. Then he has a random chance of turning to a different phase. At least I think it's random, I haven't seen a pattern. 2 attacks in range phase and it'll do a mini stun. You can see the mini stun by a 2-second stun on your debuff bar. He doesn't really have an animation for it. 2 more attacks, then it's gonna green. So you wait for 1 attack, 2 attack, and then you stun, so you skip the green. You can skip the green on the range phase, but the melee phase you can't. You can stun with backhand, or you can even destroy it as long as you cancel destroy it after the initial hit. As you see there, a lot of minions just spawned and I was sitting in the middle. That is not good. That means all the minions are going to attack me and they're going to follow me. Minions spawn at 195k and 65k HP. Minions sometimes skip the ability that KK is going to do though. If KK spawns minions and starts auto-attacking you again, just count for 2 attacks and go for the next ability in the cycle. So say it done 2 attacks and then it spawned minions, it wouldn't have done the mini stun. Then it would have done 2 attacks and greened me. Then it would have completely nullified the mini stun. So don't always look for that if minions are spawning. Remember, if minions spawn, it won't do that ability you're waiting for. To stop all the minions attacking you at once, you want to hug the east wall. This will avoid most of the minions and only 1 or 2 will hit you. You can easily kill those or pick those off if you need to. As long as you hug this wall, most of the ones, as you can see, spawn on the west and they won't even touch you. As long as you're hugging up and down this wall. When it comes to the melee phase, you cannot skip green. It will do 2 attacks, then it will push you back. Once it's pushed you back, it will do 2 more attacks and then it will do the taxi where it charges in front of itself. You can see him powering up the charge when he goes highlighted. Just run behind him or run to the side. Once he's done his charge, he'll do 2 attacks and then it'll be green. So there's attack 1. There's attack 2. On attack 2, you want a freedom. You need to freedom so you're not stuck in place for green. Anticipate doesn't work. It has to be freedom. Then when your debuff hits 3 seconds on the stun, you want a bladed dive away. Because you freedomed, you can bladed dive. Then in the last tick, you want to use devotion or swap to a shield and resonance. Normally when minions aren't around, it's best to switch to a shield and resonance, so then you have devotion up just in case a couple of minions come on you. That way they can't snipe your resonance, and you can devotion instead. When there's a lot of minions, devotion is always your best bet. If you miss green, there is a way to deal with it without just instantly dying though. If you have ability queuing on, when you get green, to queue your freedom ability. If you don't have ability queuing on, you want to keybind freedom and your max cape teleport. You want to spam your freedom and your max cape teleport over and over and over again so you can freedom and teleport out as soon as it's about to insta-kill you. You have about a tick to do so. If you queued it on the other hand, you wait for the freedom to pop after the queue and you instantly teleport with your cape. Then this is a way you can get away without dying, which is especially useful while learning KK. Okay, so time to talk through a full kill. It started out in melee phase, so it's going to do 2 attacks, then it's going to push me back. Then it will do 2 more attacks, and it will do a taxi. Make sure you're facing towards the side that you want to hug when it does the taxi. Now it's going to spawn minions because it hit 195k HP, and it will spawn the minions at the same time as green. Which means I need to make sure I free them on the second auto attack after the taxi, and I'm standing on the side where there's not many minions. That allows me to then bladed dive and devotion with only a couple of minions on me. Then it's back to DPS and like normal, it will do 2 attacks, then it will push me back. Then it will do 2 more attacks and it was going to do a taxi, but it's swapped to range. That means I know it's going to do 2 attacks, then a mini stun, then 2 attacks, then I need to stun it to stop the green. What I normally do to stun it is destroy because it's some extra damage, but you don't want to double stun with destroy. This means when you press the button, as soon as your global cooldown is off, use another ability, and it will only do the first 2 attacks of destroy. It's not until the 3rd attack that it does a second stun. So make sure you don't do a 3rd hit with destroy, and then you're fine to stun with that. Obviously it digs after you skip the stun and stuff, so then when it pops back up, make sure you're still hugging the east wall and DPSing it down. I killed one of the minions, so I only have one of the minions on me now. But I don't worry about prioritizing minions unless it's melee phase, because melee phase is the one where you can't skip the green, and then they might snipe your resonance. Just a quick note, this animation around KK, this green shield, means your damage will heal him. Just don't attack him for a few seconds and it'll go away. It's swapped to mage phase now, which means I swapped to all my range gear, and I swap my prayer, everything like that, and then I DPS Kalphite King down from a distance. What I typically do is just move every time it does a ball. You can use Soul Split here as well to help you heal a little bit. I typically can protect from mage because I like to use devotion sometimes and things like that. But for the most part, as long as you don't get hit by the balls, you can use Soul Split if you would rather do that. As you can see at 65k HP, it spawned more minions. It spawns twice as many minions at 65k. This means you may have 1 or 2 on your side and the rest should be over in the middle and to the west. You can see a lot of minions that aren't attacking me because I'm hugging this wall. It's so important to hug this wall. It swapped to range again, so I swapped to my melee and I DPS it down just to finish it off. Remember, 2 auto attacks, mini stun, 2 auto attacks, skip the green with a stun. And that's all there is to KK. It's just rinse and repeat. Practice makes perfect. I bank every time with the max guild, and it leads to some decent kill times. 2 to 3 minutes, not bad. You can play it a bit more risky and add Zerk in your rotation and get even faster kills. But for me personally, I like to take it chill. 2 to 3 minutes is fine, and I don't risk anything by Zerking. There are a couple more mechanics to the boss. Just like he uses abilities, so sometimes when he's in mage phase and the ball explodes, it's not going to do as much damage to you because it's a combust. And sometimes it'll do a load because it's a wild magic. It's easier just to avoid every single ball, in my opinion, than learning which ball is what attack and sometimes messing yourself up. Same applies with range and melee. He does different special attacks and different abilities as you go along. It's pretty cool that Kalphite King uses your own abilities against you kind of thing. I can't stress enough, learning how to deal with the green is the most important part. Once you have that down, you can do solo Kalphite King. The rest is pretty damn easy. So I'm going to reiterate just how to skip green before we end. 2 attacks in range phase and it'll do a mini stun. You can see the mini stun by a 2-second stun on your debuff bar. He doesn't really have an animation for it. 2 more attacks, then it's going to green. So you wait for 1 attack, 2 attack, and then you stun. So you skip the green. You can skip the green on the range phase, but the melee phase you can't. You can stun with backhand, or you can even destroy it as long as you cancel destroy it after the initial hit. When it comes to the melee phase, you cannot skip green. It will do 2 attacks, then it will push you back. Once it's pushed you back, it will do 2 more attacks, and then it will do the taxi where it charges in front of itself. You can see him powering up the charge when he goes highlighted. Just run behind him or run to the side. Once he's done his charge, he'll do 2 attacks and then it'll be green. So there's attack 1. There's attack 2. On attack 2, you want a freedom. You need to freedom so you're not stuck in place for green. Anticipate doesn't work. It has to be freedom. Then when your debuff hits 3 seconds on the stun, you want to bladed dive away. Because you freedomed, you can bladed dive. Then in the last tick, you want to use devotion or swap to a shield and resonance. Normally when minions aren't around, it's best to switch to a shield and resonance. So then you have devotion up just in case a couple of minions come on you. That way they can't snipe your resonance and you can devotion instead. When there's a lot of minions, devotion is always your best bet. If there's no minions around, you can swap to your shield or defender and resonance freely. And that is it for this guide. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Hopefully you've learned something new. Dealing with the green is the main thing. Once I learned that, the rest of Solo KK was nice and easy. Do give the video a like if you did enjoy it. Subscribe if you're new for loads of future content all related to Runescape 3. And until next time, see ya.